What's up everyone? Welcome back to another Oxygen Not Included video. This one's going to be a remake of my best steam turbine guide video, and I recently went back and watched that video and I started to cringe a little bit. It was one of the first videos I uploaded on this channel. Well, the first ones around Oxygen Not Included. I did some for various games in the past, but that was a very long time ago. But yeah, it was one of the first ones I did, and well, you could tell that it was sort of a beginner video, and I don't think I'm too much better than I was then, but I can look back now and say, wow, that's horrible. So I'm going to remake it, not only for that reason, but also some things have changed. Just some minor tweaks to the system to make it a little bit more efficient, a little bit better, and sort of some, not really math, but a little bit more substantiated numbers for you to work with if you're trying to build this yourself. So let's go ahead and jump into it. If you're not familiar with that video, the system uses the concept of gas above the turbine to force the steam that's coming up through it back down underneath, creating perpetual motion and essentially running the turbine forever, or as long as we have the thermal energy for it. So that's going to be sort of the limiting factor, the bottleneck, is how much heat you can provide this thing. As long as you can provide enough heat for it, it will continuously run forever. And you might be able to set these up like on top of each other with various metal tiles, you know, in between, putting heat through to each one, but we're just going to start with one. So let's go ahead and set it up. All right, so we're going to use a double layer of ceramic, and you don't have to do this. Actually, what you can do is use just regular tile ceramic or Mafic or obsidian. Let's just do that. Let's just use an inner layer of obsidian here. And the reason we're doing this is that the inside layer is going to get hot. We're going to have to heat those tiles up. There's no avoiding that. It's going to happen unless you're using insulated insulation from space. That's going to happen. But you can see here that obsidian has a mass of 200 kilograms, and well, all the numbers are there, but essentially you don't really have to worry about it. Just make sure that the inner tile is something that is not insulated, and like as low a mass as you possibly can. Metal tiles work the best for this, but you may not have refined metal at this point. So, well, you may not have enough to dump into something like this. So we're just going to use obsidian. And then the outer layer, we want insulated ceramic. So this is going to protect all heat bleed from this thing. So we're not going to get any heat bleed out of this, and so we're not going to waste any thermal energy. So these tiles under here need to be tungsten. Now actually I'm not sure they need to be tungsten, but tungsten has some of the best transfer rates as far as metal goes, so you kind of want them to be tungsten. Okay, and then one more tile here. All right, so this is our basic room setup here. And let me just plop the door down before we start. We want the door to be made out of wolframite. Wolframite also has some of the best transfers. So how I would set this up in a normal game is I would build this sort of system, right? And I don't think I need to explain how to build the room. And then we would have our water seal here. Or, well, it's not going to be a water seal. It will be an oil seal. This is important because the inside is going to be steam, right? So if you have steam in here and water here, if you ever need to get back in here for whatever reason, then that steam is going to make contact with that water and it's going to turn it into steam, and you're going to lose your liquid lock. So definitely use oil or petroleum or something with a higher vaporization point, so you don't really have to worry about it. Oil's around 400, I think. Yeah, 400. So now that we've got this set up, we can put our pump in here, and the pump you want to be made out of like gold or ideally steel, so it'll never overheat, right? And then we want to pump this out and create a vacuum. I'm in debug, so I can just handle that very quickly. So there's our vacuum. We've got it set up. Now what we want to do is put a normal gas vent in here, just like right there is fine, and then pump hydrogen in this room until it's overpressured. You can use other gases. You don't have to use hydrogen. I just find hydrogen to be the most easy, because generally I have a self-powering oxygen module set up at this point, and I already have hydrogen in a pipe or a tank that I can just vent into it. But like I said, you can use oxygen, you can use natural gas, you can use probably polluted oxygen, I don't know. But anything that floats above the steam essentially is what you can use, and you're going to want 2 kilograms per tile. But like I said, if you just put the vent in here and you just let it run until it's overpressurized, it'll do that for you. As you can see, we've got 2 kilograms per tile and the vent's overpressurized. You can then delete the vent. I don't like to leave the vent in here because I just like it to look nice and clean. So we do that. And then obviously you would need your water in here. Now water you can't let run forever. You do have to kind of add the right amount. And I mean, you don't have to. One thing you can do if you don't want to add the water manually is you can set this up. You can set the heat up, which is going to be something like this. And then this room would be magma, but the heat source doesn't really matter. It can be anything. It can be hydrogen that gets looped through magma, pulling the heat up into this. It can be an aqua tuner, a still aqua tuner under here. Like, the heat source is important. I don't want you to focus on that. Magma and like volcanoes, metal volcanoes, all those have a high enough heat output to actually run this thing really, really well as far as power goes, but they don't generate enough to run it 100% of the time consistently. So that's not really important. The important thing is getting it set up to where it actually, runs properly. So one thing you can do is you can have this set to like above 400. It used to be 300 max, but now we can adjust the temperature. So a little bit hotter temperature I found is a little bit better. Right, and then we want this hooked up to a battery so it can actually run. And if you're doing it this way, to where you're transferring the heat prior to having the water in here, then you're going to have to leave the vent. But if you do it another way, so essentially what you would do for this way is you would have your heat source connected, you would have your thermal sensor set up, and you would have this room closed off. And then this pump would vacuum this out, blah, blah, blah. And then once that's closed off, so it's going to start heating the room up to 400 degrees. And once it's hot enough, once it's reached temperature, you can start dripping some water in slowly until the steam turbine starts to ramp up. And then, you'd have a shut off. Where is it? Plumbing. Lost my mind there for a second. So you'd have a shut off hooked up to like a clock sensor. Right? And then, as it starts to ramp up, you turn it off. Whoops. You turn it off and you wait to see if the turbine dies back down. If it does, you add more water, etc. And I'll kind of replicate that with debug by adding it, but I don't like to use that method. What I like to do, because I have like the exact numbers now, I like to just add the water. So again, you just have a shut off. I don't know why I deleted it, but you just have a shut off with a clock sensor. And then instead of running it until the turbine ramps up, you would just count the packets as they go through the shut off. So we need about a 1-to-4 ratio with hydrogen and water here. So I don't remember exact amount, but I think it's around 170 kilograms of water. So if we go here, we go water, and we say 170 kilograms, and we just go boop like that. That's how I would do it. So I would just count them as they come through the pipe, and I would let 17 packets through into this room, and then I would turn off the clock sensor and be good to go. And then this is all set up. And then at that point, we can delete the liquid vent that we had here, mop or sweep everything up so it's nice and pretty, and then close everything up. Now, if you don't care about all that, then just leave the vent in there. It doesn't really matter. But me, it kind of bugs me if I have a vent in here, so I like it like this. And then we'll take our magma or our heat source from really whatever volcano, metal volcano, iron, gold, whatever, and we'll just drip it in here. Again, this is replicating wherever your heat's coming from. You can do this, with anything that gets really above 240 degrees. I think around 240 degrees is when the steam is actually hot enough to be pulled through. If you don't know, each port here on the turbine is 2 kilograms per second. So it will intake 2 kilograms of steam per second and output 2 kilograms of steam respectively on the top. So, I mean, there's only 4 on the top, but I don't think it matters. It just outputs it from the same place. So you can see it's starting to ramp up here. We're getting a little bit, we're starting to get hot enough. Not quite here. Now, take into consideration, we're going to have to heat this inner layer before we actually reach a balanced state. So this magma is not only heating the steam right now, but it's also heating up these outer tiles. And you can see they're heating up quite quickly, though. So let's go ahead and, oh, super speed was on. All right. So 230, they're probably going to get around 240. These ones down here might get a little hotter because they're touching the door. And there we go. So that's the system. That's how I would set it up in the game. Like I said, the heat source can be anything that gets about 240. The hotter it is, the more mass it is, and the hotter it is, the more energy you're going to be able to harvest from it. And something like a steel aqua tuner can run this. However, it doesn't run at 100% uptime. I imagine if you had a niobium or even better, a thermium aqua tuner, then you might actually be able to get 100% uptime on this guy, because it can get quite toasty. And you can, if you want to make it with a aqua tuner, what you can do is you can, I'm not going to set it up fully, but I'm just going to show you the layout. Boom, you can stick your aqua tuner right there and it'll function really well. And if you have a thermium one, it'll get up to like 900, 1000 something degrees, I think, because the aqua tuner has a 125 base, and then this adds 900, right? Yeah. So 1025 degrees as far as the aqua tuner goes. And that could potentially run this 100%. I mean, as long as the aqua tuner is running, right? As long as you have something to cool down. But that's the system. That's the one that's been updated. In the prior build, I used 10 kilograms of hydrogen, which does work, but you also have to use more hydrogen, more steam, which uses more thermal energy. So this build tries to maximize the amount of thermal energy we have, or maximize the usage of it, rather. And I've tried less than 2 kilograms of hydrogen, but it just doesn't seem to work. So by all means, if you discover you can use less, let me know in the comments below. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions on the build or future builds you'd like me to do, then you can leave those in the comments. Hit the like if you enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.